Race 2 is about to get underway here for the Alfa Championship at Rockingham, and it looks like light showers are just about to hit us, which is going to make negotiating this track very tricky indeed. So with that, we're going to hand it straight over to Andy to run you through all the action.
Thank you very much, Lyndsay. Yes, this is a crucial race because mathematically the championship could be won here, although that's looking highly unlikely. It is going to be the results from race 1 that set the grid, so it's the 3 Power Trophy cars, then Tom Hill leading the Twin Sparks with Christian Leith alongside Richard Ford and Dave Messenger in behind. Paul Webster on pole position. Well, he moved up from 7th to 4th in the championship in the previous race. Mathematically, there are 6 drivers that could still win the title, but realistically, it's down to 2 or 3, and they're all likely to come from the Twin Spark category. Let's deal with the points later on, though. First of all, let's look at what happens at the start. It's another good start by Webster from pole position. In the Twin Spark category, Tom Hill is not that sharp off the line, and in fact the white and blue car of Andy Hancock is coming up alongside, so too is Richard Ford. 3 abreast of the race lead and 3 goes Hancock, so Hancock immediately gets into the race lead, and Richard Ford, with an outside bet of the championship still, is applying the pressure immediately, but the car is smoking slightly and slowing slightly, I'd say, as it goes through turn 1. That is not a good sign for Richard Ford. Down on the brakes they go, in towards the Dean hairpin for the first time, and Dave Messenger there on the outside of Christian Leith, the man who is second in the points and really has to beat Tom Hill in this race to keep his realistic championship hopes alive. Down towards the right-hander at Yentwood they go. There is Christian Leith in behind us, so Dave Messenger is still in front of him. Richard Ford, the 31 car, is also still there, so he hasn't pulled off at the side of the road. That smoke hopefully not going to become a major issue as the race goes on. They're all right behind Robin Eyre Mansell, who is a Power Trophy car, but we've seen has been struggling for pace a bit this weekend. And in fact, the Twin Spark cars are stacking up behind him, so this is all getting rather lively now. Hancock it is that leads the Twin Sparks. He's the white and blue car. The black and gold is Tom Hill in second place. Dave Messenger is third. 4th place for Christian Leith and 5th for Richard Ford, up towards Gracelands through this long left-hander and down towards the Tarzan hairpin. And the leaders getting quite close together. Big old lock up there for Robin Eyre Mansell, who is clearly struggling a bit with the handling of that car at the moment. The Twin Spark cars, they couldn't be much closer. Good to see there at the back of the grid, we've got Avni Rapika, who was a non-starter in the previous race, so he is out there this time. There still, though, appears to be no sign of Andy Inman, unfortunately, so he is no longer, or still not taking part in the racing. But there are the men who are 2nd and 3rd in points coming into this race, Christian Leith and Richard Ford. Now, as I said, you score points within your class, so it's all about where they finish in relation to Tom Hill, who is challenging for the class lead. Look, he's up the inside of Andy Hancock as they come across the start-finish line. This is just the way that Tom Hill needs to go about this, just business as usual. Forget about the points, just try and go out there and finish as high up the order as you can. And Andy Hancock it is who is denying him the race lead at the moment. Down towards the inside line goes Tom Hill. And as he brakes as late as he dares, I think he's about to go through into the class lead. Yes, he is. Can Hancock close the door before Messenger follows him through? Yes, he can. Just a few spots of rain on the camera up at Dean, but not yet enough to make the circuit too slippery, it would seem. Back down towards the right hand we go, on board with Richard Ford here. The magic number is 42, because after this race there will be 42 points left on offer. You scored 20 points for a race victory within your class, and the fastest lap of the race is worth a bonus point as well. There will be 2 races left after this one, both at Alton Park. As all this contact, look at that, that's Tom Hill! Tom Hill into the side of Robin Eyre Mansell. Now, remember, that is for position. Yes, it's for 3rd place in the race, but it's not for position within class. That was a risk that really Tom Hill didn't need to take. He probably felt that he had to take it because Robin Eyre Mansell was holding him up and backing him into the rest of the Twin Spark pack, who could come and take points away from him. But that was a very risky manoeuvre because the contact that was made could so easily have damaged the suspension, damaged the steering. Again, they all concertine together under braking. That Eyre Mansell is sideways and Hill will this time go through. But Andy Hancock might be able to follow through. Of course, Robin Eyre Mansell, though, is quicker than them all in a straight line. And here comes Andy Hancock as well. So it's all getting very close here for what looks as though it's 2nd place in class. But actually, that 156 of Eyre Mansell is not in the same class as these cars. He is in the Power Trophy, in theory, for the more modified, therefore quicker cars. But Robin is just struggling for speed this weekend. In race 1, he was able to escape the Twin Spark cars. But in race 2, the same thing is not true. That's my point about the points. 42 points available after this race, and at the moment the margin for Tom Hill in the championship is 24 points over Christian Leith, but there are 2 cars between them at the moment, so the gap is going to go up. unless it goes up over 42 points, it's not yet decided, and it will go down to the last round at Alton Park. Down onto the brakes they go again, and is Hill defending from Hancock or attacking Air Mansell? He's nowhere near the Power Trophy car, so he is defending the race lead. Dave Messenger there up the inside of Christian Leith for third place in class, though, and that runs the number 32 car out wide. And almost allowed Richard Ford to challenge as well. So back through Chapman Curve. And this is all getting very, very congested indeed, isn't it? A real pressure cooker race as the slightly slower, ironically, Power Trophy car is backing up the Twin Spark machines. So if things are finished as they are now, Tom Hill would get 20 points because he doesn't have the fastest lap of the race at the moment in the class. That at the moment belongs to Richard Ford. So 20 points for Hill for the class victory, and with Christian Leith down in fourth place. We'll deal with that in a moment because it's shuffling again now, because up the inside of Robin Air Mansell is going everyone basically. Through has gone Tom Hill, through also is going Andy Hancock, and Robin Air Mansell will maybe be able to fight back against Hancock in a straight line. I'm not convinced he'll get back to Tom Hill though, so Tom Hill might have judged this well now to get a car between himself and the rest of his classmates. Richard Ford and Christian Leith were side by side further back, and I think Richard Ford has just gone into fourth place in the championship as well. Messenger there looking around the outside of Hancock. He's very wide indeed though. Look at them scattering for 3 or 4 different lines coming out of the chicane. Fascinating racing. I'm really going to miss this place, you know. It's provided some great action over the years, and this is another example of that as they fan out once again across the start-finish line. So Christian Leith at the moment is set to lose 6 points to the championship leader, which means the gap would be 30 points going to Alton Park. So that would mean it's not yet won, but there's plenty of time for things to change as Christian Leith, in fact, now goes on the attack and gets on the inside of Dave Messenger. There's contact there, but Christian knows that he has to try and make ground here to keep the championship alive. The other thing you have to factor in here is that they dropped their 2 worst scores. Well, Christian has had 1 DNF and 1 7th place finish, which is worth just the 2 points. So he's only dropping... sorry, 10th place finish, excuse me. He's only dropping 2 points at the moment in the championship. Tom Hill has had 2 non-finishes, so he's dropping no points, but 1 more non-finish, and he'll have to count it. So 1 more non-finish either here or at either of the races at Alton Park, and it could all change as far as Tom Hill's championship is concerned. He has now been passed once again by Robin Air Mansell, I noticed, so Andy Hancock is once more on the challenge, trying to take the class lead away. Christian Leith, though, has lost 4th place to Richard Ford and could lose 5th here very shortly to Mel Freeman, who's been invigorated in this race. He's really going very quickly and looks like he could be about to make a move. He forces the silver car of Leith to defend down towards the right-hander at Tarzan. Christian is careful not to run too wide on the exit as well, so Christian Leith works his way up another position. Sorry, doesn't lose another position, I should say. He has lost 1 to Richard Ford already. Freeman then applying the pressure. And then it's Riccardo Lascelli, and these are all people that could take more points away from potentially Christian Leith here. Down across the start-finish line they go. It's a testament actually to how consistent Christian Leith has been this season, because he's one of very few drivers who has had less than 2 non-finishes. Pretty much everyone out there has had either 2 non-finishes or 2 non-starts, therefore drop scores don't really come into the equation for them. But for Leith they do. Richard Ford trying to get past the rolling remains of Dave Messenger's car. Dave's had a few little bits of contact in this race. The front bumper is hanging loose, and that probably isn't helping the handling of the car, and all of that works in the advantage of Richard Ford, who is able to go through and pick up a position. So Richard Ford up 1 more place, that's a couple more points. He's now losing just the 6 points to Tom Hill at the moment. Can Richard get up there and maybe challenge for the class victory? He's now in some clean air. We'll watch his lap times with interest to see whether or not he can catch the leading 2. A few more spots of rain as well down at Corby, just to make things even more entertaining, as if that needed to happen. Back down towards the left-hander at Gracelands. There is Messenger, there is Leith. So Christian Leith now the next man to come on to the tail of the 79 car, sorry, 79 car. To try and move through, forces Messenger to defend. Leith goes to the outside line, thinks about going right round the outside, but really he just wants to get the better exit, but he can't do it because look at that. Mel Freeman gets up the inside, and that's always the risk with taking that wide line into the corner. It leaves an inviting gap up the inside for the cars behind. I think that Leith will hang on to the position, but any chance of attacking Messenger for the time being has gone by the wayside. Ricardo Lascelli also now moves to join in the fun. They negotiate this gain as one. Christian Leith a bit wide of the apex there. The car's all starting to understeer a little bit. Oh, there's a car pointing the wrong way. That's Hancock. Andy Hancock's gone round. Andy Hancock, who was in second place in the class, has had a rotation at the chicane, and unfortunately that means that he now drops right to the back of the pack. Simultaneously, Christian Leith is in danger of losing another position here though, so he gains one because of Hancock's off, but he could lose one now because Mel Freeman's up the inside, and this is not what the second place man in the championship needs at all. Hard on the brakes they go. Leith on the outside, Freeman on the inside. He's very late on the brakes. He's never going to get the car stopped, surely. Well, he keeps it off the green stuff, but back through will go Leith, and Lascelli will go through too. Very lively racing here from the Twin Sparks in this race, and this is why particularly this production element of the championship continues to be a real fan favourite, because it produces cracking racing, and the Rockingham circuit, well, this is a fitting send-off for it, because once again it's reminding us what sort of quality action it's capable of providing. Down towards Corby. Oh, rocking on the suspension there through the double apex left-hander. So what does this do to the points? Well, it means that Tom Hill is now only one position ahead of Richard Ford, so he's only extending the margin over Richard by 2 points. However, that will mean that it's 42 points between them, because Richard Ford at the moment is 40 points off the championship lead. If things finished as they are now, Richard Ford could only hope to tie with Tom Hill, and that would not be enough, because even if he were to win the last 2 races at Alton Park, he still wouldn't have as many wins as Tom Hill would, so Tom would win on a countback if it were to get that far. Of course, with Tom's consistency this year and his consistent race victories, it's hard to imagine that he would have a complete disaster at Alton Park, but mechanical gremlins can always set in. You can always get involved in other people's incidents as well, so you can never count too many chickens. That's why every point matters, even when it looks as though the championship is lost. It's well worth just trying to score as many points as you can, because you never know what might happen over the remaining rounds. This is a fascinating battle between Ricardo Lascelli and Mel Freeman as they make their way now up through turn 1. They've both sort of been picking their way through some of the chaos around them, and they've gained a few positions as a result. Down into the Dean Hairpin, Lascelli to the middle ground, Freeman to the outside. Christian Leith is now trying to do something about getting past Dave Messenger. And, well, it's all getting very lively indeed. Of course, the other thing that we're not necessarily taking into account here is the fact that Paul Webster, who sits 46 points off the championship lead, is leading his class as well. So if Tom Hill were to lose the lead of the class for any reason, then Paul Webster could actually still become a championship contender as well, albeit maybe just mathematically. But Webster, who is already a country mile ahead of Scott Austin and Robin Eyre Mansell in the Power Trophy element of the race, well, Paul Webster, who gained 3 places in the championship in the previous race, could gain another couple in this one as a result. He's only 6 points behind Richard Ford, who is second in his class. So this is why it may be a bit confusing at times with all of these points floating around, but every point is significant, and every positional change, even if it's not within your class, could have a bearing of the outcome of the championship. Down towards the Tarzan Hairpin go Lascelli and Freeman. These are 2 drivers who are free from the shackles of a championship battle. They're just out there to have some fun and finish as high up the order as they can. They don't need to worry too much about points. Ricardo Lascelli is 9th place in the championship coming into this race, having raced a couple of different cars over the year, much to my confusion at times. He's in the 147 this weekend, which does seem fairly well suited to the tight technical infield section here at Rockingham, but maybe not quite as quick in a straight line as some of the 156s, particularly the low drag version of Mel Freeman without the rear wing. There is Tom Hill. So Tom Hill is still leading his class, but look who is coming. Richard Ford has been lapping quicker than him on recent laps, and Richard knows that the only way he can keep his slim championship hopes alive is to beat Tom Hill in this race, and he goes for it immediately. Up the inside line goes Richard Ford, and Tom Hill, maybe realising the situation that's playing out here, won't fight this too hard. He does have the inside line for Yentwood, but yes, Tom Hill, as I suspected, didn't fight it too hard. He just backed out of it, said, you know what, Richard, if you want the class lead and the class class victory, go ahead and take it, because second place would still be enough for Tom Hill to at least keep Richard Ford out of the championship equation. That would mean that only Tom Hill and Christian Leith would go to Alton Park with a chance of the title. And potentially, of course, Paul Webster. Well, I think he would really ideally need Tom Hill to lose another place to make that mathematically possible. Over the hill they go, down towards Gracelands once again. And Tom Hill may have lost the class lead, but the championship lead is still very much going to be his, albeit by a slightly reduced margin over Richard Ford. But Richard is not second in the championship. Christian Leith is, and will still be second in the championship after this race, barring a disaster for Christian. It may not have been a great race for him. The second place in the championship will be Christian going to Alton Park, it would seem, barring any late race dramas. In fact, Christian has just improved his position because he just got himself ahead of Dave Messenger by the looks of it, so he's now third. Tom Hill is second, and that means Tom will only take 2 points out of him as things stand at the moment. That would mean that 26 points would be the margin going to Alton Park. As through we go. Now, what I hadn't noticed is that Richard Ford, as he was chasing down the class leader, has set the fastest lap, so that's worth another point. So, actually, that means that he will be just about the right side of the cut-off, wouldn't he? He is going to be mathematically in contention for the championship going down to Alton Park, but he would require Tom Hill to have some real dramas. So it's all about trying to keep the championship alive at this stage, but realistically Tom Hill has one hand on the trophy. That's why he wasn't fighting Richard Ford too hard when he decided to come through a lap ago down at the Dean hairpin. But Richard, fair play to him, he did exactly what he needed to do. He applied the pressure, he took the first possible opportunity to find a way past Tom Hill, and Tom is not yet the provisional champion, but he certainly is going to be the favourite going to the final round. Drops down the hill now in towards Corby. The cars look anything but happy through there, but as they bounce around on the suspension, they continue to circulate at good speed. So too, circulating at decent speed is Scott Austin, albeit not quite as quickly as he'd like, because Paul Webster is going to win this race, it would seem, by over 30 seconds. He won yesterday's race by 28 seconds, but that was over Scott Austin on that occasion as well, of course. Now, Scott was some 7 seconds clear of Robin Eyre Mansell in the previous race as well. Well, there you can see Robin is only about 3 seconds behind him now, so it would appear that Scott Austin's pace is not quite as strong today. His best lap in this race, 1:46.9. Yesterday, he did a 46.5, so yeah, he's not going quite as quickly as he did in race number 1. Here's the fight for the twin spark lead, though, and Tom Hill keeping a watching brief. If there's a chance to apply the pressure to Richard Ford again, then I'm sure he will take that chance, but he's not going to do anything too silly, knowing that he's got the championship more or less in his pocket now. Just needs to go towards the park and finish the first race in a decent position, and he will have the championship wrapped up. Christian Leith is still going to lose points to him, and therefore really just a top 5 finish, I think, in that first race at Alton Park. If things finish as they are now, the top 5 finish at Alton Park in race 1 will hand the title to Tom Hill. Through Dean they go, and Richard Ford actually getting ever further away. He's just gone even quicker, so he's improving on that fastest lap now, and making absolutely sure that he is going to get the bonus point. He's lapping almost on the pace of Scott Austin and Robin Eyre Mansell, who are Power Trophy contenders. Because this is such a technical circuit, it sort of rewards handling over power in a way. I know that you'd think, with it being on an oval, based as an oval at least, that straight line speed and horsepower would come into it a little bit more, but there are more corners than there are straights, so it pays to have a good chassis underneath you, and clearly Richard Ford has just that, because his fastest lap in this race, which is a 1:48.2, is over a second quicker than Tom Hill has been at any stage in this race, so he really is taking big chunks of time out of him. Here's Dave Messenger. He's got Riccardo Lascelli and Mel Freeman applying pressure now. Messenger's car started to slip backwards, I think, possibly as a result of that damage that he's got sustained to the front end after a little bit of contact earlier on. But he's still providing us a great rearward view. This has been one of my favourite angles that I've seen all year from Dave Messenger's car, as it looks back through the rear windscreen, through the rear wing, at the little 147 of Riccardo Lascelli, who is breathing down his neck now. through the Brook chicane. I think this camera angle also makes the cars look a bit closer together than they are, but rest assured they're not that far apart. We're talking a car length at most separating these two as they came through the chicane. Now Lascelles disappeared for the time being. He will be around here somewhere. There he is, pops back into view. We look right into the visor of the number 27 driver as he starts to close in a straight line. Now, I have to say, I thought that 147 would be down on straight line speed compared to the 156s, but with perhaps the aid of a tow, the 147 Bianco run car is really running very quickly indeed in a straight line. So Riccardo Lascelles looking competitive here this weekend, and has been exciting to watch all year long. Well, Paul Webster may not have had the most exciting of times, but he is looking good for a race victory. He has set the fastest lap in his class, so he's on course for 21 nice, juicy championship points. And compare that to the 18 that Christian Leith is going to score, sorry, that Tom Hill is going to score, and it's not quite enough for Paul Webster to get himself back into championship contention, but he's only going to be a point or two out of it going to Alton Park, but it won't be quite enough. Nonetheless, he's looking good for a double race victory because the last lap board is being held aloft. He has one more lap of the Rockingham International Super Sports Car Long Circuit to negotiate. This will be the last ever racing lap around Rockingham for the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship, and it's fitting that it's one of the more experienced drivers, Paul Webster, who looks as though he's going to come home a winner. It's been fairly static within the Power Trophy element of the race. We had a few more of them out there though, and we have had that in the past. We've had big grids over the years in the modified and the Power Trophy classes. If we can start getting those grids up again next year, then we'll see some great competition here as well. The racing in the Twin Spark category has been a fitting send-off for Rockingham. Some really top quality entertainment with the drama of the championship battle sort of in amongst all of that. That makes it all the more entertaining. Paul Webster though, with one of the quietest days of everybody because, again, because it's such a long circuit, he has not had to negotiate any back markers. We've had a couple of drivers fall by the wayside, by the way. Avni Rapika and Andy Hancock, after having that spin, Andy pulled into the pit lane and retired. So they were two less cars for Paul Webster to worry about catching because it's a long lap, even with the spread across the two classes. It's not enough time, over 20 minutes, for Paul Webster to catch the back of the field, so he's not had to overtake anybody all weekend long, which sounds like a nice, relaxing Sunday afternoon drive, but I'm sure Paul would have relished a bit more competition. Nonetheless, he'll take the victories, he'll take the points that are on offer, and he'll see what he can do at Alton Park, and of course, we haven't yet seen where Tom Hill is going to finish this race. He's second at the moment. Will that still be the case when we next check in with him at the checkered flag? For now, though, we'll concentrate on Paul Webster, who is about to win the final BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship race at Rockingham, and in convincing fashion. He won yesterday by 28 seconds. This time around, we're looking at nearly 37 seconds over Scott Austin, who comes through in second position. Robin Eyre Mansell is third, and then we get the Twin Sparks, where Richard Ford takes a crucial race victory to keep his slim championship hopes alive. Tom Hill, though, scores good points with second position, and that will be enough to maintain a very healthy championship lead going to the finale. So it is Paul Webster with the victory, second for Scott Austin and third Robin Eyre Mansell. Richard Ford takes the Twin Spark victory ahead of Tom Hill and Christian Leith. Then it's David Messenger, Mel Freeman and Riccardo Lascelles who round out the finish as we lost Andy Hancock and Avni Rapika. The championship is going down to the wire.
Drive. You were actually
one hand on the
4
championship
seconds
trophy
a lap quicker, I believe.
For Tom
Yeah,
Hill.
and taking it quite easy. Once you get away, it's quite easy to just settle into the rhythm on this circuit. So once I got away, I could just sort of settle in and let the times drop a bit and just hold the lead. But yeah, pretty comfortable today.
Did we hear you were having a few issues, like mechanical-wise, on the car?
Yeah, it's not been running very well since Cadwell. It's about 80% throttle and got some issues with the management system. So it's quite down on power, but it's just set up really well. Richard Drake Motors set it up very well for me. So it's just a pleasure to drive. So it's quick through the infield, although maybe not so quick down the straight.
So what does this mean going into your last round at Alton?
Probably going to be second. If Tom Hill has a couple of non-finishes, which I hope he doesn't, then I'll probably be able to pip him. But I missed 4 races in the middle of the season for holidays, so give him a 40 points head start really. But I think Tom Hill's probably likely to win it.
Rob, that was a good race out there.
No, it wasn't. You must remember, I have the fastest car on this grid by a country mile. It is just much quicker than everybody else's. but can I make it go? It's too difficult for me. I'm getting old. I'm well past my sell-by date, and it's beginning to show. I'll have to stop. It's too much motor car for me. I can't. I don't seem to be able. I know what's wrong. I can't put it right.
So it's the pink squidgy bit behind the steering wheel.
Yeah, it's all down to me. The car should have won it by a country mile.